Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got a great show coming at you as Lon Strickler is here with Strange Days. Yes, the cryptid connoisseur graces the airwaves once again with his fantastic hair and beard combination. You'll see that shortly. Dirty Filth is here with another great cartoon. Best of all, we have each and every one of you. We got SJ in the gold medal position. Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a bronze or a silver with Race Fan in the bronze medal tonight. Kitty Caddywhack, how are you? Chris 716, Attorney at Large, Michael Morris, Robert Lamoth, good to see you all. David Nordenberg, welcome to SOR Chat. Necessary Dialogue, good to see you. Hi, Bar Madison, Frankie B, and Les Paul Holland. Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show because the one thing Lon has in his contract is he must be nice and lubed before coming on Spaced Out Radio. Mel takes care of that each and every time. Mama Catherine, I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful night. And, yeah, we're going to have a good time. Expendable Ronin, welcome to SOR Chat as we continue on with Roll Call. T-Bone, my man, good to see you, my friend. Little Timmy James in the chat room and in studio. Yeah, he's everywhere. He really is. All right, scrolling on down. Excuse me, where'd that come from? Excuse me again. Scrolling on down, Flubber Lane is here. Flubber Lane will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Moving it on down, let's see who's next here. We have... let's see here. Oh, big conversations going on here. Just another guy named Harry, Eternity Eternal, Dragonfly. Good to see you all here. And who's next on our list? Oh, there's Frankie B. There's T-Bone, T and Mothman, SJ, Frankie B. Xanos, how you doing? Good to see you. And Digger Dog, how you doing? Millennium, my man. Fast Hemi, thank you all for coming on in. Scrolling on down, we have up next... another long conversation. Lisa Smith, how are you? Lee the Bee, nice to have you here. Worst part about it, I can't even read that. No, my eyes are killing me today. Phineas on X, nice to see you. Blick74 has returned. Blick74 will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Walter Kochabinski. Boondock, how you doing? Karen in the Woo Train, Escape from Blue Jersey, Sierra, Mark Eddy, nice to have you all here. And Phyllis Boucher Perry, nice to see you. Number 34 in your program, starting in goal tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. There he is. All right, Olivier J., how you doing? He saw several Mothman flying in Chicago. Have you reported that to Lon? Well, we'll find out soon. Ethanol, good to see you. Paris Solo, Carla, nice to see you both. Skip to my Lou, good morning to you. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you all here as Lon Strickler from phantomsofmonsters.com will join us for Strange Days as he does the final Monday of each month. And we are continuing on with our roll call on the YouTube side. Kurt M., nice to see you. And who's next on our list here? Oh, scrolling on down. And Crypted 559. That's Javier right there. Javier always likes a tip of the cap. So we'll give you a tip of the cap there, Javier. How you doing, buddy? All right. Scrolling on down as we are winding down on time here. J. True Seeker, nice to see you. Candy, thanks for coming on in. We are caught up. Swear to God, this thing sheds my beard hair. Oh, yeah. Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi, Paradox Fossils. How are you? It's that time of the night. Throw those horns up, everybody. Let's rock. Mountains of Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SMR. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digital from every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock up, read the news wire. Check out this follow us on X and Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got an awesome show of Monster Talk tonight, especially Mothman. Lon Strickler from phantomsofmonsters.com is going to come in with some real crazy, spooky stories. Then in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller is here with another creepy story. Then little Timmy James in studio will be here for the UFO report. Ah, yes, we love it when Lon Strickler comes into this show. He is a Fortean researcher, a publisher of the syndicated Phantoms of Monsters blog. He began this in 2005, which has steadily grown in popularity, literally getting tens of thousands of views every month on his website. People reporting monsters, people reading about monsters. He has appeared on numerous television shows, including Ancient Aliens, Paranormal Witness, Fact or Fake Paranormal Files, and Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. He has one of the greatest encyclopedias of weird information out there. Aliens, Mothman, Dogman, Paranormal, Bigfoot, gnomes, anything that is going weird that we see, you bring it to Lon. Yeah, he has one of the best databases in the world. Let's just bring him on here. Lon Strickler, it is always a pleasure to have you on this show, my friend. How are you?
And it's always a pleasure to come on the show with you, Dave. I'm doing fine.
I can tell you are so jacked up for tonight. Really hopped up on the coffee tonight, aren't you, Lon?
It's been a long day, man.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I had one of those nights last night that I could not fall asleep until almost 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to be up at 7, slept through my alarm until like 8:17. Now I've got that sleep headache, where your eyes are killing you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I got going on right now. Feel the sympathy for me. I want the sympathy out there. But we'll get this show done. We will. Lon, for people who may be tuning in for the first time and want to learn a little bit about you, you are somebody who's been doing this for the last 20 years at phantomsofmonsters.com. You are literally, I think, one of the most highly decorated researchers out there when it comes to the Fortean, the woo, the passionate stories that people have with their cryptid encounters. How did it all begin for you?
I was 8 or 9 years old when it first really started. When I had my first encounter at Gettysburg and at the battlefield, and that was way before I even got involved with cryptids and such. I didn't really even know what a Bigfoot was. That was back in the late '60s or mid '60s, and so and yeah. But I knew at the time. I just knew something was different about me. You know, I was sensing things, seeing things, and that day on the battlefield, I had that encounter where it just like the whole thing opened up in front of me, and I was in the battle. Basically, I mean, I saw soldiers, heard soldiers, gunfire, smelled gunpowder. I mean, the whole 9 yards, and it was kind of eye opening, and it lasted for about 30 seconds, and then it just faded away. But that's kind of the day I knew something was going on. I didn't mention it to anybody. I just kind of kept it to myself and just kept rolling with the punches. And as time went on, and I got older, started going to high school, and I started conducting very rudimentary uh, paranormal investigations locally. And that's kind of how I got into all this. So I've been involved with the paranormal off and on for at least 50 years now.
How fun is it for you when you collect these stories on a daily basis?
Uh, I guess after a while, a lot of it becomes old hat. But honestly, there's always a time when something comes up that you don't, just really piques your interest, and you want to look further into it. So, but if I didn't like doing it, I wouldn't do this. I mean, I'd find something else to do. But it's kind of come to that point where I'm lucky enough to have people contact me and asking for advice and putting me in their lives after they've had an encounter or something's happened to them, and I've been able to help people over those years in different ways, and maybe assuage their fears somewhat. But yeah, I mean, it's something I love to do, and it keeps me out of trouble.
Does any of this scare you?
Um, Not really. I have had some encounters, and they've been somewhat frightening to a point. But um, I think I've got to the point now where it doesn't really frighten me that much. But every time you do an investigation, or every time I do an investigation, there's always a point there during that period of time when something will pop in there, and I'll sense something, and there's a bit of apprehension. I mean, I'll admit that there's sometimes I'll sense things or see things that just don't, that just are not normal. And, that kind of gets the adrenaline going and gets me more involved. And, I'm one of those people that when I get my teeth into it, I'm going to continue on to it. I mean, just like what's going on in Chicago. I mean, we've been looking at this since 2011, and it still continues on. And, it just keeps coming at us. And though we really don't know what's going on, hopefully one day we will.
Out of everything that you've experienced, not prior to Phantoms of Monsters, but since phantomsofmonsters.com, what is the one story that's really affected you? Or maybe there's a couple.
No, there's a couple. I mean, some alien abduction accounts have affected me. Personal stories that people have, encounters they have had. Several the Mothman in Chicago, or winged humanoid Chicago sightings are much more dramatic than some of the others. There's a few of them, and even some of the upright canine dogman encounters can get a little hairy sometime. Quite frankly, that's something I'd never want to run up against. I'm out there looking for it, but do I really want to get close to it? Not really. But when that time comes, if it comes, then I'll deal with it then.
I'm like you with that one. I'm voting for keep Dogman away. This is why you know what, when I'm building my security and safety backpack for the outdoors, I'm bringing tennis balls. I've got a pack of tennis balls, seriously, for Dogman. They're upstairs. They're upstairs in the second floor of
We gotta
SOR.
make him fetch it.
Man, I'm trying everything, Lon. I am trying everything. Maybe I'm bringing some milk bones too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's that in particular. The cryptid canines are an enigma, really. I mean, do we have any inkling as to what these things really are?
What is the love that keeps you going?
Oh, geez. I think the biggest part of it is the people I meet and then get associated with, become colleagues. That's the best part to me. I mean, I just love to be able to interact with people that are on our team or people I meet, new people that I'm able to go out and share the experience with. That's my favorite part of it.
Out of everybody whom you have met through this field and this genre, what has been the most learning experience for you in that?
Well, everybody's got their own little story and got their own little niche or whatever you want to call it. But just like with Butch, I mean, Butch, he had no interest in cryptids when I first met Butch. He could care less. We got together because of the Todd Seas thing, and that kind of eventually we worked on that pretty steady for a couple of years until we got as much as we could, and he became interested in some of the sightings here in Pennsylvania of these cryptid canines, and he got more and more involved with it, and that's kind of what we gravitated to, and so that's what we got involved with. So yeah, people pick up on stuff. I mean, I'm very eclectic too as far as phenomena, because I've been lucky enough to be able to experience a few different things, as well as be able to be associated with people that have had these encounters, as well as people that investigate and research them. So I've been pretty lucky.
Do you find that out of all the stories you have listened to over the years and taken reports on and done your own research on, do you think there is any logical explanation for any of this that's going on?
Maybe. There's so many things or so many variables involved with a lot of this phenomena that is, at this point, it's just really hard to pin down. I think there's a lot of different answers to a lot of different types of phenomena, particularly cryptids. It's just we not if anybody tells you exactly that they know exactly what's going on, they're lying to you, because that's just not the way it is. I mean, some people have more insight into it because they may specialize in a particular cryptid or such, but I really can't say that anybody has a beat on what's really going on. You can see that more and more as just look at the Bigfoot world. I mean, more and more investigators have been involved with this for years. are really starting to open their minds up and kind of question as to what's really going on. And I've heard more and more people every year who were strictly flesh and blood, indigenous on that side of the coin, and they've kind of changed their outlook or insight as to what really may be going on. They can't necessarily figure it out at this point, but I think most of them do understand that it's something more than just something living on our earth plane. There's something else going on beyond that.
Where do you think they're coming from?
I think they're coming from another dimension. And I just don't say I don't say that just flippant like. I mean, I truly believe that. I've heard so many things from so many different people over the years that, and I'm not just talking about Bigfoot, I'm talking about most cryptids and even other paranormal phenomena. I think there's just more to it. I mean, we are lucky enough to live in an age where I think we're able to open our minds up and kind of get theories and maybe theses of what's maybe going on or what we think is going on, and not be afraid to acknowledge it or to mention it. 20, 25 years ago, I probably wouldn't say half the stuff I say now for the fact that people would ridicule me and just think I'm out like crazy. But, you know, I have to be honest about it. There's just so many things we don't know. And there's more anecdotal evidence that these creatures and this activity is more than just some type of indigenous creature that lives on our plane and is able to hide real well.
The dimension thing is something that totally captivates me. I mean, we've seen and talked to people who have claimed to watch portals open up in the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere. You can't see them with their naked eye, but if you have a FLIR, or all of a sudden people will see strange things coming in and out of them. This whole thing with portals just seems to be, entering a different zone, a different dimension, like you said. Have you ever had any reports on people eyewitnessing portals opening?
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of them with various cryptids. I've even sensed a few of them in mostly in haunting cases where portals will open up. I've kind of experienced the phenomena through remote viewing when I have done remote viewing, and most RVers will tell you that it's just something different about it to where that it's just different. Why it happens, I don't know, but I think there are. I think these cryptids utilize that, and as I've gotten further and further into this winged humanoid phenomena, and the more accounts that I hear from witnesses and experiencers, even experiencers of possible alien encounter, I do believe that there's something to the whole interdimensional wormhole, moving between worlds and such. I think there's something to that. And as time goes on, I'm hopeful that as technology becomes more in tune with that and we're able to use it in our research, that maybe we will start getting more answers as to what this really is.
There's so many questions that come into my mind at this point when it comes to the dimensions and the portals and everything. Have you ever talked to anybody who actually saw the other side of a portal?
I've talked to people who have said they have experienced it. Now, I don't think anybody has ever really proved to me that they have, but their arguments are somewhat convincing. I believe many of these people believe they have been on the other side, but in most cases, it's so vague. Um, Not really part of what we would consider being true science. All they can do is tell you what they experienced, and then you kind of got to leave it up to your instinct and to think, to kind of pinpoint what happened. So far, I really haven't been able to do that. It's all theory. But I do believe people do believe that they have had experienced that, and I've had people who have said they've seen these creatures come through like an invisible doorway, and vice versa, have literally disappeared through one. In several cases that I've been involved with, so it does happen, and it does come to the forefront many times. It's funny where you will be talking to a witness, and they kind of take that part of it and push it to the back because they're fearful you're going to think they're crazy. But as time has gone on, I think less people are worried about that now. I think people just want answers. Uh, and that's what we try to provide. Now, I can give them my thoughts as to what may be going on, and they can take it any way they want. But I have talked to people that I believe that they believe they have encountered something from another dimension or from another world.
Do you think then that when people look on the other side, they're just seeing something arid, dry, desolate? I know Trey Hudson. Do you know Trey Hudson?
No.
Okay, he's a researcher in Georgia, and two of his team. Well, you've met Jessica Jones.
Yes.
Okay, so Jessica Jones was part of that team, and they have this one area that they go to. They don't tell anybody about it, where it's located, nowhere. And they, a few years ago, encountered a portal on their FLIR. And they directed the two researchers to go over there, and they actually stepped in. And
Mhm.
apparently the other side was very desolate, and like you saw trees, but there was no leaves on them. You
Mhm.
saw barren, ground and dirt. It looked very desert-like. Anyways, long story short, both those two gentlemen are now deceased of cancer.
Okay. Well, there may be an explanation to that. I mean, what it is, I don't know, but it very well could be. I mean, is there some type of radiation or some type of other phenomena that causes that? I
I
don't
don't know.
know. Yeah, I don't know, but
Go in one?
that's what's
Would
that?
you ever go in one?
Would I?
Yes.
I guess it depends on the mood I'm in at the time. If I really wanted to find out what was going on, I may. I probably watched too much Fringe, the TV show. I probably watched that too many times. I'd be apprehensive of it.
Well, Lon, when we return from the break here at the bottom of the hour, Lon Strickler from phantomsofmonsters.com is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to get into Mothman. We're going to detail Mothman from the beginning to the end, from Point Pleasant to Chicago, and every sighting in between. This is Spaced Out Radio. All right, Lon, we're clear. That was a good start. Good, solid start. Carol Lamario, how are you? Show of hands in the chat room. Who is oogling Lon's great hair and beard combination right now? Put my hand up. Science Bob over on X. How you doing? Yeah, old Science Bob. We'll see him on Friday. Hey, Science Bob, I get to introduce you. He's speaking at UFOCon 2025. Yeah. Who else has joined us here? In the studio. How you doing? Let's see here. Parasolo's oogling Lon's beard and hair. So is Crude Red, Carol Lamario, Xanos, Mel WD40, Raven Haynes. How are you? Expendable Ronin. Yep. I think sometimes Lon wants to come through the screen and just slap the shit out of me. Oh God, I would never want to play poker with him because he just doesn't change.
You know, I had people say that to me all the time. You show no expression. You show no emotion.
Yeah.
Lon,
you should join us in Vegas May 1st to 5th. That way I'll put some money down. I'll give you some money so you can go to the poker table for me. Kaz, how are you? Uh-huh. Yeah, Science Bob, if you're still listening, you better be careful. Be nice to me over the next little bit, because when I introduce you, you want me to speak nice things of you. Yeah, Bob, I'll have a steak and mashed potato dinner. I will have a couple of drinks on your tab. What else? From Science Bob right here. Man, that beard is looking good. I already got my passport, Jerry Carter. I don't need people. This rumor that Canadians cannot cross the border is false. That is, pardon my language when I say this, extreme liberal lack of understanding. I can cross the border anytime I want. I don't have a criminal record. Okay, Lon Strickler likes me. He'll vouch for me. Same as Science Bob. And I'll get them to sign autographs at the border. Okay. I'm not tariffed crossing the border. I can cross the border just fine. Yeah, we're in a shitstorm right now on both sides of the border, but let's not make it worse by making up stuff.
Yeah, I got to get my damn passport too. I let it lapse, and now I got to start from the beginning.
Sierra, if you ever make a racist comment like that again, you're going to be banned. It has nothing to do with crossing the border and the color of my skin. I don't put up with any racist bullshit. It doesn't matter. Don't even try it here. That immediately pisses me off. Immediately pisses me off. Like, why even say that? Thank you tonight to T-Bone, Mama Catherine, And Frankie. Yeah, bye, Sierra. You're gone. Bye. We don't do racism here of any kind. You're going to get a timeout. Enjoy your evening. Oh, sorry, kitty cattywhack. Here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. From phantomsandmonsters.com, Lon Strickler is here. He's an author, researcher, Fortean, intuitive, and a man who absolutely does a great job at keeping in contact with the story of Mothman from the days of Point Pleasant right to the sightings of Chicago today. Lon, thank you very much for coming on in.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
All right. A lot of people have been asking about Mothman recently because there's been a couple more sightings of this alleged creature, I believe, over the last couple of months. Let's go back in time to the 1960s at Point Pleasant. Let's give people a history lesson.
Well, what happened originally, and I don't know if there had ever been sightings previous to some of the sightings around the West Virginia Ordnance Works, the TNT plant, what people call it. But there was an encounter there of this creature that literally looked like a moth or like a butterfly or something to that extent. It had the red eyes. Didn't really have much of a head. It was kind of inset into the upper part of the body and was somewhat aggressive. And apparently it was at the facility, which was abandoned by that time. And didn't take too kindly to people showing up there and partying, I guess, and kind of chased them out on the road onto the main road. And it continued on. And after it became known that it was happening, people throughout Mason County and some other areas, even across the river into Ohio, started having encounters and seeing this thing. That lasted for about a year from 66 through 67. And, of course, it started becoming well known within the paranormal community, and it kind of all culminated into December 15th of 1967, where the Silver Bridge across the Ohio River collapsed, and 46 people lost their lives, and the Mothman kind of got a bad rap about it, though, many people thought, well, maybe some people had said they had seen the thing above the bridge that day, kind of after the fact, but maybe it was trying to warn people. Maybe the whole year previous to that was some type of harbinger, some type of means of warning the people of Point Pleasant that something was going to happen. So that kind of turned into John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies, and a few things got added into that with the Men in Black and UFO activity and other paranormal activity. And that's kind of where the legend started, but it didn't really end there. it continued on. A lot of people believe that the Mothman wasn't seen after that, but we get reports to this day of sightings in and around Mason County and the area around Point Pleasant. And I've had reports off and on during that period of time. So, and I, over the years, I have gone to Point Pleasant. I've done some investigating. I've been at the TNT plant. I've done a lot of recording there, and I've heard a lot of different things that have kind of got me to believe, and this is my personal opinion, and what I'm going to tell you is that I believe that the Mothman or this creature was a summoned being. In other words, I believe it was a sentinel that was summoned by a very, very strong Shawnee or other indigenous tribe spirit that resides in that area. And it was brought from another dimension to kind of protect the spirit or protect the area. And I think that's why it became aggressive. And I still believe it's there.
Who do you think brought this spirit of the Mothman out?
A very, very strong indigenous spirit or energy. I have heard many EVPs that I've got to the point to the belief that this thing had communicated with me and a few other people at certain times. Now I haven't been down there in a while, and I don't know how much access you have to some of those storage facilities there. But there was one in particular where we were picking up on a lot of different things, and it was, through my intuitive ability and other individuals who I was with and did that, I believe that that is the nexus of the Mothman. That it's a summoned being. And as far as what's going on in Chicago and even other places where people have seen these winged humanoids, I think there's a very good possibility that they all came from a similar place, and they all may be some type of summoned being as protectors or as sentinels. Now, of course, this is my belief. This is what I believe it is, and I've mentioned it in my books and other places on other interviews and such over the years. But I haven't really seen any argument or heard any argument to change my mind about that.
Now, do you think this is a harbinger of danger?
No. No, I don't. I don't think it is. I haven't seen any instances really that can be proven that it was a harbinger. I mean, the Silver Bridge collapse, nobody was mentioned or wasn't even mentioning anything about it being a portent or a harbinger until the bridge collapsed. And then some people came forward after the fact saying that they had seen the creature either on top of the bridge or near the bridge. I think that was kind of expanded upon. I think John Keel had a lot to do with that, but I think others as well. And I even talked to John about that years ago. I mean, he didn't dispel it. He kind of gave me a smirk and didn't say too much about it. But, but that, over the years, that's kind of been my belief on as to why Mothman started. Now, there's a lot of other things involved with it. I mean, there's a lot of people experience a lot of different phenomena associated with this thing. But as time has gone on and we've gotten involved with this thing in Chicago, It's not the same type of creature that was seen at Point Pleasant, but it's very similar. I think it may be related to it somehow, or these different types of races of this type of being. Do they come from the same dimension? Do they come from the same place? I really don't know that. I believe they may possibly, but I don't think what's going on in Chicago is a harbinger either. I you know, from what the witnesses have told me, it wants to be seen somehow. I mean, it literally kind of goes out of its way to be seen. I think it's able to pick out who sees it. When I had my encounter in '88, I think that being wanted us to see it as well. Why? I don't know.
Do
But
people describe the same creature over and over again, or has there been any differences from Point Pleasant to what we're seeing in Chicago today?
well, there's just a few similarities. The red eyes, for the most part, are the only real thing that there's some similarity. The body style is different. The wing structure is different. The mannerisms are somewhat different. They're not very aggressive in Chicago as opposed to what happened in Point Pleasant. Um, but but I think they're related to an extent.
Same height, same hands or claws or whatever they are.
Well, the Point Pleasant Mothman had detached hands and arms from what I understood. Now, it could be either way. I mean, I know in Chicago, we've had both reports that some have been attached to the wing, some have been detached. The wing structure, for the most part, in Chicago has been a bat wing type of membrane wing, as opposed to the insectoid or moth-like wing that was seen in Point Pleasant. The body style was much different. Point Pleasant was more of a stout, thicker body with legs, as opposed to in Chicago, where the body was very emaciated looking, very dark, sometimes looking wet. The height anywhere from 5.5 to 7 foot. And the wing structure was larger. I mean, these wings out in Chicago expand out as far as 15 to 20 feet in some cases, total wingspan. So there are differences. The Chicago creature has a distinct head, though it's somewhat small, but it does have the large red eyes. For the most part, I'd say 80, I'd put it 85 to 90% of the sightings have the red eyes. They may all have it, but people just didn't notice it because the sightings have been so quick and so fleeting that I just don't think maybe everybody saw it dead on to where they could see the eyes. Now, there have been some reports where the eye color was different. Not necessarily in Chicago, but north of Chicago, we've had green eyes and blue eyes sightings. But all in all, it's still a wing being. It's still humanoid, and it still has wings, and it's able to fly, and it's able to maneuver to the point where it seems to be some supernatural being of some type.
How does Indrid Cold play into all of this?
That's a good question. I don't know how much Indrid Cold really plays into it. I have talked to a lot of researchers about that, and they all say they think there's a connection somehow. I don't know if there is or not. The only connection that I have investigated was a sighting about 3 years ago in New York, in upstate New York, where a woman And I think I told you about this before, where a woman had contacted one of our investigators about an encounter she had with what she describes as a bat-winged humanoid with red eyes at her residence. And right after it happened, she received a phone call. And when she looked at the phone, the name Indrid Cold came up on the ID.
Is it true that just talking about Indrid Cold makes you summon him?
Some people believe that. I don't know. I really don't even know what Indrid Cold was. Was he an alien being of some type? What was he? I mean, there's a lot of stories as to what he was, but um, you know, the Darrenbergers have their own thoughts as to what he was. They believe is an actual alien being, but honestly, I have my doubts. But I know I do have talked and I do communicate with a lot of people who do believe that there is a connection and that Indrid Cole was absolutely some type of alien being that was living here for a time and then moved on. And many of them still believe he's alive. So it's hard to tell. But I don't know. Is the connection with Indrid Cole just because it happened in Parkersburg, which is north of Mount Pleasant and in the same region necessarily? I don't know. Is that if there's really a connection? Gray Barker thought there was. My associate Ray Keller, who and I talked about this. He believes it is, and other ufologists have as well. So, I'm not going to dispute what they believe. I just have my doubts.
Do we know if people are still in contact with Indrid Cold?
I personally don't know of anybody who can claim that, though there has been talk over the years that occasionally he does show up, but I don't know if it's hearsay or not.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, but that's my opinion. My opinion is he probably isn't, but who knows?
I don't know about Indrid Cold. I mean, I don't know if he is just in part of the legend and the lore of everything, or if he is somebody who still comes around. I mean, from all I had heard, I heard like he was sort of an alien species with a little bit of an attitude and a little bit of a harbinger of bad things to come.
Yeah, I mean, what you say is what a lot of people say it is. I mean, but I haven't really seen or read or heard enough to convince me that there's any connection between him and the Mothman phenomenon. I never even asked John Keel about that, honestly. I don't know what he really thought about it. I from people who have talked to him, who did know him, I think that they think he believes there was some type of connection somehow. But John thought there was an interdimensional aspect to the Mothman. He talked about it in his books. He talked about it quite openly about it, that, a lot of phenomena is, and interdimensional travel and such can somehow be related. I think he believed that himself.
We've got about 4.5 minutes to go here before we go to break. At the top of the hour, Lon Strickler, Strange Days here on Spaced Out Radio. Phantomsandmonsters.com is his website. Before we get to the Chicago portion of Mothman here in the second hour, and you have some great stories that we're going to read for the audience as well. Where do you think Mothman went? Because there seemed to be, after Point Pleasant, a long break of people having sightings of him.
I don't know. After the Point Pleasant, after the Silver Bridge collapse, and it became a big story, and other people were coming. Maybe it just kept itself behind the scenes. But I will tell you, I have received reports from people in the area who have seen that thing, all up and down the Ohio River. As far west as Louisville and as far north as Pittsburgh. It's a phenomenon that keeps continuing. People have, I've received some pretty interesting encounter reports from folks who did have encounters with these beings, and many of those individuals did have some bad luck afterwards. I will say that. The two guys who were with me when we had our encounter in 1988 both passed away not too long afterward. One died of cancer and the other one died of a car accident, and that was within 10 years of after. It was before 2000. It was before 2000. And they were young guys.
Do you think then that whatever this is and whatever it's tried to do, that mainly it has been projected off of people's fears, people sharing the story?
It could be. You do have to think about that with any type of encounter and phenomena that is paranormal, supernatural, or otherworldly. You do have to consider that. Everybody has their own perspective. You could take 5 people and put the same thing in front of their face, and they'll all every one of them will give you a different description or what they encountered or what they saw. But you always do have to keep that in consideration. And I think that's the big reason why this thing in Chicago fascinates me as much as it has. After all the sightings we've had, we have had 180 sighting reports that we believe are valid. And for the most part, the reports and descriptions have been very close together, have been very similar.
It just makes me wonder, where did it go for all those years? Did it go back into its own dimension? Was it always here, but people just stopped noticing it because the flavor of the month had disappeared? It always makes me wonder.
Yeah, you do have to think about that. As far as what we're dealing with now, there haven't been as many sightings as we had before, and the reason behind that is we don't know. It did seem to show up in certain areas more frequently during a set period of time and seem to move on to another area. That has happened. But for the reason behind it, we just don't know. I don't believe they reside here on our plane. I think they move in and out. But, if you did watch the Unsolved Mysteries, the Mothman Revisited that we were part of, and you listen to those witnesses, their testimony during the show was very, very close to what they told us when it happened.
Mothman of Chicago with Lon Strickler. Coming up in hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. Dirty Filth, let's turn this over to you as we take a quick break here. Look at those hands. Look at those forearm hair. That Sasquatch beast of him.
Quit ruining my cover, Dave. All right. Hold on a second here. Somebody left the music up really loud. There we are. All right. There we got Alan J. Alien. He's definitely a scientist. And his famous quote is, "Science is not always what scientists do." It's not really famous, but yeah, okay, Woo Riders, you're absolutely wrong. Like 1,000,000%. Like all my hair in my dome migrated to like my back and my chest and the rest of my body. That's why I have such a nice bald head. Doesn't make any sense, but it's true. You know, Paul, I'd have to agree with you on the threat narrative. People said it 1,000,000 times. If aliens wanted to come here and steamroll us, they would have given us like a power bomb off the top rope 10,000 years ago. Maybe they did. Maybe that's why we got alien human hybrids all over the place running around like nobody's business. I'll have you know, Woo Rider, I used to have long hair way back in the day. I had like dreadlocks and giant suicide spikes or liberty spikes or whatever they call them, and braids. And yeah, I had a lot of hair back in the day. That's what happens when you get old. Then you stub your toe and you're down for about a week. Filth foot. This filth foot, like when you stub your toe really bad and it gets infected and you have to go to the doctor and they have to give you some ointment. And the ointment is really stinky, and then you wear the ointment and your socks get all dirty and it dyes the socks like a horrible yellow color, and you threw them in the laundry hamper, and then your wife does your laundry and she goes, "Oh, good God, it's filthy." And then you have to sleep on the couch for a week. That's what happens if you get filthy foot. It's that ointment. Look foot. Oh, yes. Oh, by the way, Lon, I know I've said this 1,000,000 times, if you're still listening, but I'm mailing this sucker out tomorrow.
Okay.
There's Mothman chasing you down, trying to steal your beard.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I drew this in 2022, Lon.
Is that right?
Yeah. He's got scissors and...
Well, that will be framed and won't put on my wall, believe me.
Okay, good. I'll send a little card or something with it too and write you a nice letter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been there for a while. I had to redo the old studio here. I bought a big scanner to scan my artwork.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, I borrowed some money from the Bank of Johnson, my cousin, because I just didn't have the heart to spend $500 straight up. And then look at my bank account, be like, wow, there's $7 left. So, but yeah, it's so I don't have to cut my art down. Sorry,
I hate spending money myself. Be honest with you.
If it's art supplies, I normally don't mind. I feel good about it. I'm happy, but I go to the grocery store. I'm like, do I really need bread? No. Then I get home, I'm like, boy, I wish I had a sandwich. I'll just starve to death. But yeah, I got that.
Art supplies can get a little expensive. Look, I've been through that whole phase myself where I was doing watercolors and doing acrylics, and then got into pastels, and I spent a ton of money, and it's all sitting upstairs in my storage room now.
Okay, I'll come over and take it off your hands for you.
I've got a lot of it.
All right, Dirty Phil, thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
And he just disappears. He vanishes like a fart in the wind. Filth. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just boom, gone. Good night. He's done. Yeah. That's why we love him. We got a minute here, Lon.
Okay.
So the other night I was using my CPAP and I actually had to put my full face mask on. I could not breathe. And then last night I was like, fine. Back to the nose pillows.
I went to my pulmonologist, the doctor who, when I got pneumonia back in 2016, it made me go into I use a BiPAP. And, I lost all the weight and everything. And, I don't take anything now. I'm off insulin and all that stuff. But anyway,
here we go. 5 seconds, buddy.
Okay, well, anyway, he told me I don't have to use the CPAP, BiPAP anymore, and I still got to use it. I just feel like
here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is David Swine. Always appreciate your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Pointy Sticks. Pointy Sticks is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. We have Lon Strickler from phantomsofmonsters.com, always lighting it up with good energy, a good beard, good hair, and great stories, especially about the Mothman. As we continue with the conversation, you can find all of Lon's books on his website, phantomsofmonsters.com, or on Amazon. Lon, welcome back.
Good to be back, Dave.
All right, let's get right to it. Mothman of Chicago. When did this start?
Well, it's hard to pinpoint when it actually started, because when we started looking into it after the first sightings in 2011, we did receive previous reports. So I would estimate it happened. It really started about the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006, around that period of time. I don't know if people were seeing other things. The Chicago area, that upper Midwest area has a lot of winged phenomena. I mean, pterosaur type sightings and thunderbirds and all kinds of other stuff, let alone the winged humanoids. So I don't know exactly what people were seeing back then, but there were some sightings of something very similar to what people are reporting now.
So over the last, decade, this is when it's really seemed to pick up?
Yeah, 2017 is when it really started to get heavy.
What was that first report?
God, the first report I got in 2017 was a sighting near Midway Airport in Cicero, by a delivery man. And he had actually reported it to MUFON, and they didn't believe him. You know, they kind of discounted the whole thing, and he eventually got a hold of me. And he did suffer some visual, some eyesight problems that he believes was a result of that. Now, I don't know if it was or not, but what he described was something that looked more like a vehicle in the air. He said it looked like the Batmobile in the air at first. And it was kind of hard. That was the first sighting we got. But then as far as a humanoid sighting was a sighting up in Oz Park by a woman who was an attorney. And she also made the report to MUFON. And she had an encounter with this thing in Oz Park. This creature was very similar to what people had seen in Point Pleasant, though it had the insectoid type wings, but it was more thin. It had the red eyes, but it was fairly tall and had the large insectoid wings. One of my colleagues was able to track her down because he lived in Chicago, and he kind of put two and two together and figured out who it was. And then she came forward to us and explained everything that she encountered. And there were more and more sightings happening after that. Most of the sightings early on were of an owl man-like creature with feathered wings. We had 3 or 4 of those, but then it almost exclusively became the membrane bat-like, gargoyle-like wings. Now, one of those reports that you've got tonight was of an owl wing creature. So we do occasionally get them. But most of them now, as of 2018, well, late 2017, 2018 and beyond have been the bat wing, membrane wing creatures.
No feathers on this thing whatsoever.
Well, some of them did have feathers, not on the body. Some of them did say they thought they may have had feathers on the body, but it was nothing definitive. I think the phenomena. I think these creatures do come in races, not necessarily species, but I think races. I think there's a lot of different variations of them, but I'm just saying that for the most part, what we have been getting are the batwing creatures.
Have these people who have been sighting these creatures, what kind of people are they?
Just regular people. People who have no interest in the paranormal, just living their life, working every day, and something extraordinary happens that they can't explain. Most have no idea this has been going on in Chicago until someone tells them. They tell someone and they tell them, well, maybe you saw the Chicago Mothman or whatever's been flying around here for a couple of years now. And they give them our information. They contact us. These are just everyday people.
So if they're everyday people who are having these encounters, are they seeing them at a certain time of day? Are they seeing...
It's daylight, nighttime. It doesn't really matter. We've had them at both. Most of them are at nighttime or getting close, like dusk or something like that. But there's no set time, no set season, no set weather. Of course, that's something we thought about from the very beginning. Like, we were getting all these sightings in spring of 2017, and going into the summer, it picked up and got more intensive. Tobias and I thought that well, maybe when the weather changes, it's going to slack. And it did slack off for a couple months. But then in January of 2018, we started getting a ton of sightings again. And there was snow on the ground and they were leaving prints and such. So, yeah, I mean, it didn't really matter the weather or the time of day. They just showed up at different periods of time.
What about are they okay? Let me rephrase because I'm mixing up about three questions at once here. Were the most of these sightings of the creature flying?
Yes. A vast majority were flying.
Okay, and how far away are these sightings?
I mean, different distances. Some of them are pretty far away, pretty high up, but to the point where they can still make out the body structure, and they can tell it's something that's not a bird. But some of them have been pretty damn close to where they can get detail.
Have there ever been any close encounter sightings of this?
Yes. Yes, there have been.
How
I mean,
close?
to the point where the people were within 10 foot of these things. Two in particular, but they were very close.
What was the reaction when they had these close encounters?
They had physical reactions. Both individuals lost the use of their legs and fell to the ground. They became very weak. They became somewhat fearful. It affected them for several days afterwards. To the point where they literally sought me out within the one within half an hour and the other one within several hours.
Did they?
And I will tell you this: some of the sightings were reported by people who have notoriety as well, either in Chicago or nationwide.
The people who had these close encounters,
Mm-hmm.
did they experience any side effects, whether it was emotional trauma, spiritual trauma afterwards, like taking home a hitchhiker or anything along those lines?
I can't really say long term what they're, because some of them I have lost touch with. But like I said again, if you saw the Unsolved Mysteries presentation, they are still affected by it. And that emotion that they showed is palpable and real. It's the same as it was when they first contacted us. They just don't. It just doesn't go away. I mean, they're imprinted by the encounter they had.
All right, let's go to one of your stories here. Okay. And let's go to this one. Hello, Mr. Strickler. I recently watched Unsolved Mysteries, The Mothman Revisited, and became interested in the sightings. I recall an incident in the summer of 2005 that may fall under the category of this winged humanoid. My brother and his family lived in a more rural setting than me in Wheeler, Indiana, at the end of North Street. Oftentimes, I would spend a Saturday evening with him and his family, relaxing under the many stars. I never saw being closer to the city. It was tranquil, and the sky at night was lit up like fireworks with stars. One evening in July 2005, as it was approaching 11 p.m. or so, we were talking, and out of nowhere, an enormous bird, owl, or thing came off the roof of his 3-car garage and flew over us. As I looked up to the starlit sky, it was completely blacked out with this thing, and the sound of the wings in the air could be heard. The flapping sound was very loud, deep, and slow, unlike the sound of feathered wings. My sister-in-law ran into the house, but I strained to see what it was. It had an enormous wingspan. Its full silhouette was just massive, maybe 15 or more feet across from wingtip to wingtip, and the thin body was about 6 feet long. I remember thinking that that's too big for a bird, even an owl. I didn't see legs, but there was this long, thin, tapered tail. There was an off and on reddish glow near the area of the head, even though there was no distinguishable head. My brother came out asking what all the fuss was about, and his wife was yelling at him to go see. I explained what I saw, and he knows I am not a fabricator. I said what I saw. He said, and I quote, "Hell of a time for me to go to the head, eh?" I missed it. My brother and sister-in-law no longer live at that location, so to this day, when I am out at night, I look up a whole lot more. This world has unexplained events everywhere. S. What's your thoughts, Lon?
Well, of course, this was 20 years ago or so, and I think his recollection was a bit vague, though he did manage to give me a decent amount of information through a couple of emails. Now, he did want me to talk to his sister-in-law for verification, and I did that. Even though I had written here that I was waiting for her to contact me, but we did talk. And yeah, she kind of verified everything, and she remembered it. So, yeah, I don't know what he saw, but it's very similar to some other sightings that we have had, especially in Indiana. We've had a lot of sightings in Indiana as well.
What do you think about the glowing red on it?
Well, I mean, it could have been from the eyes. I don't know. He didn't see any distinct eyes, but he did see this glowing red coming off the head area. I did ask him about that. He insisted that he didn't see any eyes, but it was definitely some red glow coming off of it. Now he said it was kind of foggy that night, so you know how it is in the fog. Things kind of illuminate a bit because of the moisture in the air. So maybe that's what happened. So, but he was pretty definitive about it.
He seemed very inquisitive about it, whereas a lot of people seem to have some sort of fear.
Yeah, I don't, when I talked to him, when I emailed him, and we didn't talk. I talked to his sister-in-law, but I didn't talk to him. I don't think he had really even mentioned it to anybody else. I don't even think his sister-in-law and his brother had ever mentioned to anybody else. But like a lot of people who saw the Unsolved Mysteries episode, it kind of brought it all back. And many of the reports that we have received since that was aired have been in that similar vein, where they maybe didn't remember a whole lot about it, but boy, when they saw it on TV, it's like they recalled it in more detail.
Oh man, that is just an eerie story. I mean, can you imagine just kind of lounging down in your chair and then having one of these things fly over you?
Yeah, and we've heard it many times. That's why people ask, well, why, everybody's got a phone. Why don't they take a photograph? Well, put yourself in their shoes. if you're seeing something that you cannot explain, reaching into your pocket, getting your phone out, focusing into this thing, and the sighting is very quick and fleeting, obvious you're not going to get a photograph of it. And this happens all the time.
Let's get to an audience question here, if you don't mind. Let's go to T-Bone. Do you think Indrid Cold, a.k.a. the Smiling Man, and the connection to Mothman? We went over that a little bit, but I'll ask the question.
Yeah, the Grinning Man was what the name they used for him. No, I haven't really found much indication that there's a connection, but like I said, several ufologists and well-known ufologists believe there is. Maybe Ray and I will write something up about that at some point. We have talked about it. He can give me his theories as to why it may be, there may be a connection.
All right, let's go to another one. Tartar Sauce wants to know, is Mothman more hairy than feathery?
There have been people who have mentioned that it looked like they did have hair on the body. But we've had other people say that it looks shiny like an exoskeleton, like a hard skeleton or a hard skin or covering on it. But sometimes and especially if people say it looked kind of a dark brown, they said it looked like it may have had some hair on it. We've had a few of those.
All right, let's go to Blue Cruise. Have any of these individuals encountering the Mothman have the same Mothman follow them home?
There have been a few people who have had multiple encounters with these things. You remember the one I talked about last year, back in April, where the guy literally took a .40 caliber and shot at this thing 10 times. He unloaded a clip into it. He had 3 encounters with it. The gunshots did nothing to it. And in fact, this thing had done some damage on his truck as well.
Have you ever looked into patterns of the people, what they may have in common?
Yeah, we have. And there's so much variation of individuals who have seen these things. The only common denominator that I would say involved with this, and it's something we realized a little bit later on, was a vast majority of the witnesses were of Hispanic heritage. Now, why that is, I don't know. Now, a few of those areas in Chicago that have a heavy Hispanic population have had a lot of these sightings. That might be a reason why, but it's hard to tell because there are people who I have talked to who had come into Chicago on business or something, and they would tell me their encounter, and I would happen to mention to them, do you have Hispanic heritage? And they would tell me, yeah. So I don't know why that is, but there's something about that. I still don't know what it is, but there is a connection there somehow, I believe.
I think we can sneak one more in, 30 seconds here. Have you ever heard of the Mothman that was sighted in Hamilton, Ontario?
No, not specifically Hamilton. Of course, we've had the sightings of the Ottawa Angel, and we've had some other sightings of winged humanoids in the Niagara area in New York and across Niagara Falls into Canada. But look, I lived in Hamilton for about 6 months. I know several people up there, and I haven't heard anything about it.
Lon Strickler, we got him for another half hour.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. I just had to time him out again. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if we're close to a full moon here or not, but two of my regulars acting just like fucking pinheads today on the chat room. Yeah. Well, you can definitely tell that Paul got into the medicine cabinet again today.
Oh,
Yeah. Drinking Uncle Fester's prune juice. Mexi97, how are you? You know, it's always the nights when I'm just not feeling 100%. Always.
Let's fucking piss Dave off.
Yeah. Well, they both can take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to one more story here, Lon, and then we'll take questions till the top of the hour.
Okay.
Mexi, where are you driving right now, man? Listening to us. Don't forget to blow your horn for us. Give us a double tap on that horn, my friend. Even though we can't hear it, but it would be kind of cool if you did. Hold on. Probably can't be watching me right now while he's driving. Yeah, right. Hola from Houston, Texas. Beautiful. Stay safe on those awesome roads, Mexi97. It's truckers like you that keep this continent going. Absolutely. You're one of the heroes out there. Thank you, Expendable Ronin. If I was in a truck, I'd blow my horn for you too. Man, remember the days growing up in the 70s and 80s where I wanted to be a semi-truck driver so bad. BJ and the Bear and Smokey and the Bandit. That was the shit back then, man. I had an awesome semi-truck collection of toys. You know what? I still got them. I do. I still have them. They're a little bit beat up, but I still got them. And I still have a couple of my Tonka toys. Yeah.
Expendable Ronin drives a very nice Kenworth. I know he's...
Oh, is that your friend? Yeah. Oh. Is that the local?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, hey. Hey, welcome to the club. Another 100-mile here from Hun City, British Columbia. Hun City. Next time I'm in the old paint shop where Tim is, I want you to honk that horn for me.
Hello.
Got about a minute to go here, Lon.
Okay.
You know, that's something you don't see kids doing anymore.
Standing on the corner?
Yeah.
Even in cars.
Yeah.
Road trips, we used to do that.
Absolutely, we would. See, I need a good road trip with my boy to teach him this stuff. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you tonight to T-Bone, Mama Catherine, and Frankie B for the great super chats. Really appreciate the love and support. Ronan says he sees it all the time.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, that's cool.
He's a nice guy.
I hope kids are. No, that's just Alfred on the road. Comes into my work every Saturday to collect bottles.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, we give him the bottles, man. All right, Wise Ass, how you doing? Here we go, Lon, in about 7 seconds. Get comfy. Here we go with second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate the way your listening ears, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram of Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go, Lon Strickler. We have until the top of the hour, and we are going to get into story time about the Mothman again tonight. Lon, thank you for being here.
Always good to be with you, Dave.
All right. Here's your next story that you provided. Let's see here. All right. Hello. It's been a few years, June 2022, since that strange evening. I thought I would share my husband and I's experience now that it has been brought up again recently watching an episode of Unsolved Mysteries on Mothman. Finding out that there have been a large number of sightings in the Chicagoland area has made me feel less alone. My husband and I were driving down Kirchhoff Road in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, heading to home towards Plum Grove Road. It was a little after midnight when we left my in-laws' house to head home. It was a short trip of only about a mile, which we've done thousands of times. This night was different. Notice the pregnant pause there. This night was different. As we got close to home, a very large winged creature landed on the road on the opposite side. It was dark, but we could see the massive wings that were larger than the SUV. The wings were spread out, and we slowed down and stopped the car. I turned on my high beams and shifted the car more towards its direction to see what the hell it was. We didn't see any face, but we saw legs that looked almost human-like and the biggest wings we'd ever seen. This was no bird. It was huge. And when I shined my lights onto it, it shot up so fast into the tall trees and disappeared. It was strange how quickly it happened and how it flew back up into the trees. We went to look further and turned the car around to see if we could see this creature, or was it just like we described it, like an owl man that was like 4 to 5 feet tall? What's your thoughts, Lon?
Well, it's an area where we've had other owlman sightings, just north of Chicago, well, northwest of Chicago, around the Hoffman Estates area. So there have been several sightings of these owlmen up there.
Okay, hold on a second here. I thought we were talking Mothman, and now we're getting into Owlman.
We're talking winged humanoids. I didn't give these things the Mothman name. That was the press that did that. I just went along with it. But we've had different iterations of this creature.
My goodness. I mean, when did the Owlman come into play? I've never heard of this. I've heard of giant owls, but I've never heard of Owlman.
You never heard the Owl Man of Malwan in Cornwall?
No.
Oh yeah, we've had Owl Man sightings here in Pennsylvania as well. We had a pretty interesting case up in Armstrong County a couple years ago. But there have been Owl Man sightings.
That's just crazy. That's just crazy. All right, let's go to some questions here from our audience. Let's go to Paramarv right off the bat. Any theories as to why the Metro Chicago, Lake Michigan area is being visited by the Mothman for the last 15 years?
I have no idea. You know, there's a lot of theories. But honestly, they're not real definitive theories. I mean, you know, your guess is as good as mine. You know, we have been looking at this for years and years and coming up with, even when Rosemary Ellen Golly was on the team, when we were looking initially into this in 2017, she just couldn't understand where it was coming from, what was going on. And of course, everybody on my team has put their own opinions as to what they thought it was. But really, there's just no proof. It's maddening. It really is.
So strange. So strange. All right, let's go to another question here. Rat's Ass is asking, are they only seen in congested areas?
No. No, we had a lot of them out in the suburbs and in areas where it's more country and more rural as well. We had a lot of them down in Indiana, down in central part of Illinois, and up into Wisconsin as well. So, you know, we've been taking the sighting reports within a 250-mile radius of Chicago.
All right, let's go to Leacham. Any reports of winged reptilian humanoids or even dragons like those of legends?
Not in the area, but we have had dragon sightings. I have talked about dragon sightings on here a couple of times. We did have a dragon sighting in Chicago. I don't think it was related to the winged humanoids, but we did have somebody report one. The dragon sightings I have received over the years have been concentrated mostly in New Jersey, out of all places. I had 3 sightings in New Jersey, and I had one that was seen by 2 different people at 2 different times in Central Valley, California.
How many, and I'm asking out of my own curiosity here, how many winged humanoid types are there? Owlman, Mothman. What else do we have out there?
It could be anything that your heart desires. You know, people talk about the Jersey Devil. People talk about the pterosaurs or something that looks like a pterosaur that's kind of got a humanoid aspect to it. There's just a lot of different things that we get. As far as what we're getting in the Chicago area, I mean, we get a lot of different descriptions as well. Along with those descriptions are very similar. The gargoyle type being, we get those nationwide. Even where people would look at this thing and you know, kind of relate it to a pop culture from the movie Jeepers Creepers. I mean, that type of being. If you read my book Mothman Dynasty, you'll see where I have mentioned Jeepers Creepers, people identifying that at least a dozen times. There's a lot of different types that have been seen.
All right, let's go to another one here. Let's go to T-Bone. Lon, your opinion of the Chicago O'Hare maintenance crew with the multiple winged humanoids?
Well, the maintenance crew I don't know if it was a maintenance crew. You're probably talking about there was a maintenance crew where several of the workers did see this thing. Um, I think it was about 3 or 4 of them had seen it. But in that same area, we've had other sightings as well, even from firemen. There's 3 fire stations at O'Hare, and 2 of those stations had seen it. But there was 2 sightings at the one station as well. But the cargo area, which is very near the cemetery, the Rest Haven Cemetery in the southwest part of the airport, which they are still doing a lot of construction work. We've had truck drivers, we had TSA agents, we've had other security, we've had supervisors, air traffic controllers. People have reported in that area. So there have been multiple sightings. My opinion, they're seeing something.
All right, let's go to Xanos. Any UFOs sighted at the same time?
We had 2 of them. Yeah, the one we had was that was in that same area, that southwest area where a security guard was. They were doing maintenance work. It was at night, and he saw this winged being. And when he went to investigate it, a huge triangular shaped UFO showed up for a brief period of time and then left. I never heard another report of a UFO associated with that sighting. As well, there was an egg-shaped UFO seen hovering above the Rest Haven Cemetery in the cargo area early on by a truck driver who said he literally saw a human-like being being transported from the cemetery up into that craft. We've also had a few gray-like alien beings seen around that area as well. And we've had humanoid sightings all around the airport.
Let's move over to Blue Cruise. Any Mothman encounters where the Mothman attempted to carry off eyewitnesses?
No. Nope, we haven't had any physical contact. They kind of bluff charge sometimes, maybe try to scare somebody away or get them off of them. But as far as physical contact, that hasn't happened.
Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I am. That just shows how non-aggressive these creatures are as opposed to what may have happened at Point Pleasant. I think that being at Point Pleasant was somewhat aggressive.
I find that actually quite impressive that they haven't, to be blunt.
Yeah. Out of all the sightings that we've had, there hasn't been one.
Let's go to Joe. Instead of Mothman, could they all be Owlmen?
Well, like I said before, everybody's got their own perspective of what they're looking at. I think there could have been some creatures that look like Owlman that were mistaken for Mothman and vice versa, or some type of other variation. You gotta think about the conditions people are seeing these things. It's a shock. Maybe their perspective is not as keen as it is any other time, let alone being scared to death of what they're looking at. Yeah, there could be a lot of variations of that.
Blue Cruise is asking, any moth women or moth children encounters?
Not that we know of, but they could be, I mean, the sexes could be very similar to each other. We haven't had any reports of any definitive type of sexual differences of these creatures. I have no doubt there are different sexes, but who knows?
Are people seeing different creatures? Like one
It
day
could
they could see a 5-footer, the next day they're seeing like an 8.5-footer.
absolutely, absolutely. Let alone maybe these things shapeshift to some degree as well. I mean, we don't know that, they do have supernatural abilities that's been demonstrated through the sightings and the way they fly. Many times they seem to be able to maneuver without flapping in many instances. They've got a maneuverability that's definitely supernatural, let alone having red uh, light projecting eyes. Yeah, they could very well have shape shifting ability or be able to change themselves either physically or to the point where they change themselves to the perspective of the actual witness themselves.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go over to, let's see, Boondock. Lon, how often do you get reports on winged gremlin sightings, like the ones reported by bomber pilots during World War II?
I haven't had any of those. I haven't had any of those.
Well, then I guess that's as far as that answer is going. Let's go to Paramarv. I've never heard of a Mothman wearing pants. Any sightings of genitalia? Maybe it's a moth woman.
No, we haven't had any of those.
So it's like the Greys. No sexual genitalia.
Very, very possible. And there have been some people who have been very close to it, and none of them have mentioned that.
I'm sorry. I don't know what I would do if all of a sudden Mothman comes out and here he's packing a sledgehammer. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how I'd react to that. I'd probably be like, really? Really? Put some underwear on. Lon almost laughed on that one.
Almost.
Blue Cruz is like, any giant common backyard bird, example, blue jay, cardinal, robin, etc., cryptid or humanoid sightings?
We've had some misidentifications, which we believe could have well been a heron, a blue heron, or possibly a sandhill crane. They're pretty easy to distinguish as opposed to something that's got bat wings, that's got a 15-foot wingspan and 6 foot tall and a thin body and maneuvering around without flapping its wings. You can pretty well tell that. But we have had some misidentifications.
Yeah, I would hate to see the baseball team, Blue Jays or Orioles or Cardinals, all of a sudden come up with some scary moniker for that. Well, it is baseball season. Thank God baseball's back. I love baseball. Who's your team, Lon?
The Orioles, man.
Yeah.
I'm a Baltimore guy.
Their catcher is incredible. Adley Rushman.
Yeah, Rushman's he is.
Oh, that kid is.
They stocked up pretty well.
Already going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, they took advantage of all those bad years in drafting well, and now they're going to end up having to pay some money to keep them, but they got some really good players.
Yeah, go from the league minimum to about a $25 million annual salary here in a couple of years. Oh, you know what? As much as I'm a hockey guy, hockey through and through, if God gave me one wish to play one professional sport one day, it would be baseball.
Same with me.
There's something beautiful. I love baseball. Oh, just it's a romantic game.
It's the beautiful science.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, let's get a Xanos here. Could Spring-Heeled Jack in England be a Mothman of old?
Possibly. I have heard a lot of comparisons of that. That the descriptions of the Spring-Heeled Jack was of a type of bat-like wing. maybe it could have been. It could have very well have been something other than a man that was jumping around, flying around. The Victorian spin on cryptids was a little unusual.
One more question for you. Queen Peachy Keen. Have you ever heard of Chief Cornstalk?
Yeah, the Chief Cornstalk legend as far as Point Pleasant. Yeah.
I've never heard.
He was the curse of Chief Cornstalk was supposedly somehow tied into this whole Mothman thing down in Point Pleasant, where he was killed at Point Pleasant during some of the battles that they had with some of the settlers and such. And there was a legend that he had, and he was like I said, he was the chief of his tribe, Shawnee, and he was killed. And they said there was some type of legend about him putting a curse on the town.
All right. Well, we wrapped up audience questions. We got about 3 minutes to go here before we have to say goodnight to you, Lon. Well, let's go to this one. We'll get this one in because last question here. Any recent bat squatch or winged dogman encounters or sightings?
Nothing that we could distinguish as being what the prototypical bat squatch was. Now, the Godfrey was the one who really got into the old bat squatch sightings, but I think the bat squatch was actually a Mothman-like creature. To be honest with you, that's what I believe. I never really talked to Linda about that. Winged dogman encounters, I have never heard of one of those.
No. Works for me, my man. Works for me. So as we start getting more into spring, more people are going outside. More people are going to start doing the camping thing as we get into April and then May. Usually, up here in Canada, it's the May long weekend, which we call Queen Victoria's Day, that the camping season really starts. What's your 2-minute answer, Lon, for people heading out into the forest where these cryptids may be hiding?
Well, if you see it, report it. First of all, I would say just take caution. Don't do anything stupid. You never know how you're going to get, what kind of reaction you're going to get out of one of these creatures. But yeah, I mean, it's going to pick up. It is. And I know around here, and that's what I'm hoping for. It starts picking up soon because the weather is getting better. And I mean, this year we went from like winter to summer all of a sudden. But yeah, I mean, I always tell people, and I have people ask me this all the time. I just say, be cautious. And if you see something, don't do something stupid where you're going to get yourself hurt. Don't be taking a shot at it or doing something like that. You can observe and get as much detail about it. If you can write it down, write it down. If you have witnesses there with you, get their perspective and report it. I'm always willing to listen to anybody's encounter or sighting or experience.
It's always good that way. Always good that way. Lon, tell everybody where they could find your books.
Well, they're on Amazon. I mean, we have 4 in print right now, so if you just search my name, Lon Strickler, they'll all come up. I do have a link on my blog where you can go to the Amazon page where they're listed at, and just purchase them through Amazon. And I also do have a radio show, Fams and Monsters Radio, and to Mothman put the link up there, and I appreciate everybody putting the links to my stuff. So yeah.
Lon Strickler, everybody. Coming up next, Swamp Dweller, Little Timmy James, UFO Report.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem.
We will talk to you at the end of the month.
Hey, look, if you got any, if there's any subject that you want to talk about, give me a little bit of heads up and I can dig stuff out for you, okay?
Yep, we'll do.
Okay. You take
All right,
care.
brother. Take care. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Sleep well. Lon Strickler, the man, the myth, the legend. We'll be right back. All right. Let's do this. All right. There we go. How we doing, guys? Having a good night? Sorry about the fireworks in the chat room tonight. I'm doing the long swampy.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Blue Cruise. Remember, on Friday and Monday, Sweet Robbie G will be hosting for me. Well, I am in San Francisco for UFO Con 2025. Thank you tonight to T-Bone, Mama Catherine, Frankie B for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate your love and support. Just come, Christine. Just come. Just say hell with it and come. Sometimes you got to do that. Here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate it when you're listening here on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Pointy Sticks. Pointy Sticks is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp.
So before I get into this story, there are a few things I would like to clear up. First, this story takes place in Altamont, Tennessee, in mid-July of 2018. Second, I was in the Boy Scouts at the time. Third, I have some friends that I will be referring to in this story. Their names are Brad, Steve, Xavier, and Paul, respectively. 4, we were grouped in tents that had 2 each inside. I was in a tent with Steve, so Brad and Xavier were sharing a tent, and Paul was sharing a tent with somebody I can't recall. I was at a summer camp for 8 days, but I only spent 6 days at the camp, as it was a day's drive up and back. The first few days were pretty normal, honestly, but it was the night of the 3rd day when I couldn't sleep on account of the awful tents, which hardly closed and seemed to be infested with insects and arachnids of every kind. So I was awake for most of the night, listening to the sounds of the Tennessee woods, until I noticed some peculiar noises which didn't seem normal. I first noticed strange noises at around 1 a.m., 1 hour after lights out. First, it sounded like footsteps, but as time went on, I started to hear what sounded like whispering. I couldn't make out what it was saying, because it was barely audible. I was pretty shaken up, but eventually the noises quieted down and I managed to fall asleep. The next morning, I told Steve about it, and we both shrugged it off, although at that point I wasn't sure I had been dreaming or if I was awake. I forgot about it until that night shortly before lights out, when I remembered and told Brad, Xavier, and Paul. Even though I was dreading it, of course, I would have to go to sleep eventually. When I made my way to my tent, I unsurprisingly couldn't fall asleep, but not because of the noises. I couldn't sleep because I had what seemed like 6 billion bugs in my tent. At about 12:30 to 1 a.m., the noises started. This time more loud and intense. The noises started with footsteps, but the footsteps quickly evolved into voices themselves. Not whispers, but full volume talking and possibly even yelling at one point. Then the sounds morphed into chirping and squeaking. At one point I even heard what sounded like a medieval battle horn, like in the Narnia movies. Eventually, I grew tired of cowering in my tent and decided to go check out what the noises could be. I went down to the bathrooms, which were about 200 feet away and down a hill from my tent. When I got to the bathroom, I realized the squeaking noises seemed to be coming from a leaky old house, which was a huge relief. I relieved myself and went back to my tent. I lay down and it appeared that the noises had stopped, but of course, that was only temporary. When the noises started up again, I called out in a slightly hushed tone, thinking it was somebody playing a prank. It was about 2:30 to 3 a.m. at this point when my friend Paul responded to my call and came over to my tent. Paul said that he had been up for a while because of the bugs in his tent when he noticed the noises too. He had been up for about 30 minutes when he heard me and came over to my tent. Paul and I hung out in Steve and I's tent for a while. Steve slept through the entire night, even with Paul and I trying to wake him up. While we were in the tent, the noises would stop and start repeatedly, alternating every 10 minutes or so. While Paul and I were in my tent, with Steve sleeping next to us in the tent, we noticed that the footsteps were getting increasingly closer and louder. The footsteps were so much that it sounded like they were right outside our tent. We figured it was another kid who was in the tent nearby named Eddie. He may have been sleepwalking because he was known to do that sometimes. We called out to Eddie asking if he was all right. There was no answer though. We shrugged it off and continued talking. Eventually, Paul got tired and returned to his tent at about 4 a.m. Honestly, at this point, I decided I would try to get some sleep too. I had been laying down for all of 10 minutes when the noises started up, and I realized I would not be getting any sleep that night, and decided to walk around the camp and try to find the source of these noises. I did not find anything. However, I did walk by Brad and Xavier's tent. I decided to see if they were awake by whispering into the side of their tent. Brad was awake, Xavier was not. I asked Brad if he had heard the noises, which he said he had. Brad had said he was up listening to the noises for about an hour when I came over. I told Brad to keep his ears open for any more weird noises and went back to my tent. About 20 minutes later, I started to hear the noises start up again. I decided to wait a few minutes to see if the noises would stop. The noises did not stop. I decided to go check around the campsite again. This time, though, I went to Brad and Xavier's tent first to recruit them to help me check. When I got over there, both Brad and Xavier were awake. It was sometime between 5:30 and 6 a.m., so Xavier and Brad came out of their tent and walked with me around the campsite. We had checked the entire area and were about to return to our tents. We happened to be walking by the end of a huge rectangular clearing behind our campsite when we saw a strange animal at the other end of it. It was no more than 200 feet away if I had to guess. The thing looked like it was prone. It was completely still, just watching us. We didn't know what it was, so we started walking toward it. When it realized we were coming closer, it got up, and this is when we realized that we weren't looking at any ordinary animal. This thing was like 4 feet tall and humanoid, with a hunched posture and huge glowing orange eyes about the size of tennis balls. Its head appeared to be pushed into its torso, giving it an appearance similar to that of the depictions of the Mothman. When it got up, it started hobbling away toward a large ditch. As we got closer, it became more frantic and started to move faster. By the time we got there, it was long gone and the ditch was empty. We checked the area in which it had been and found nothing of importance. Though, hilariously, we did find an empty bag of Planters peanuts about 10 feet away from where the creature had been. I have no idea what we saw that night, but I am sure we saw something we can all agree on that is not natural. I spent hours searching for anything about the creature we saw, but have not found any evidence of this creature's existence online. I am sending in this story in hopes that it will be spread around, and eventually I will have an answer for what we saw that night.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell, because he is here 7 days a week. Well, 5 days a week, because I'm only here 5 days a week. 5 days a week to kick off hour number 3. Let's go to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Little Timmy James in studio tonight for the UFO report. Good to have you here, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, man. You know what? I still think your intro is the best.
I love it. I do.
You created a spaced out radio song.
I did so, sir.
Did you send that to me on my phone or did you send it to me on Messenger?
I sent it to you on Messenger.
I wonder if I can play it.
You could probably can.
I'm going to look for it here because it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Well, it was a lot of fun. That was probably some of the reasons that I was so tired for a while there, because my friend and his son and whatever like to work later at night, like most engineering musician type people do. So, yeah, that was touch and well, not touch and go, but that's basically when I contacted them the most, right? So
I'm gonna find it. I should have prepared for this beforehand.
That's all right.
But it's pretty awesome. There it is. Let's see if I can play it here.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll come up.
Let's see.
Hopefully.
We're waiting.
No, it isn't going to play.
Oh, no.
It isn't going to play.
That's okay. We'll figure it out.
You know what? I'm going to see something here. Hold on.
Oh, Dave's going to work some magic.
We're going to try and work some magic here because it's pretty wicked.
It was a lot of fun. And it was originally, it started out where I had written some lyrics and stuff for a song that I was looking at and wrote some guitar progressions. And I liked it, but I wanted to do something for Spaced Out Radio so that when I took the song that we originally wrote and we kind of beefed it up and wrote some new lyrics, and we got the new Spaced Out Radio song.
Oh, it's emotional. It's emotional. All right, so let's try this here.
Let's hope.
Let's try this here for a second because people need to hear this. People need to hear this. And hopefully I can,
you can do it.
Do this properly. It's uploading.
Oh, excellent.
See if we can get this thing going.
Yeah. Well, it's not too, I think it's only like a 6 megabyte file.
All right, let's see what we can do here.
Okay.
I don't hear it.
There
the midnight sky. From Venus to Mars, we're living free. It's you and me.
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Yes, horns up for that. Oh, we got to fit that in somewhere.
Do whatever you want with it, my friend. That was your early birthday present.
That was very Steel Tiger.
Yeah, there's yeah. A couple of more. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And all I did, I helped. Well, I wrote lyrics and then did some chord progressions, and I thank my friend Ray and his son Warren that put it all together and not hired the guy, but had the guy sing, and yeah, it was pretty cool. So I was pretty happy with the way it turned out.
Hell yeah, you are. Oh my goodness.
Yes, I did not play any instruments on that song, but I worked on a lot of the, like I say, the structuring and yes, labor of love.
Oh my goodness, that was. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty amazing.
It is. It's awesome. I like it. It gets stuck in my head.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work that into the rotation.
Whatever you want.
Somehow.
Your show, my friend.
Well, yeah. we'll work it into the rotation for sure. UFO report. We will get to some UFOs. We got about 6 minutes to go here. Well, what do you got for us?
Well, I've got something. It's Arrow. So Arrow seems to have hit the news a little bit more recently. So the Arrow Puerto Rico report. So the Department of Defense, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, so Arrow, released a new assessment of the 2013 Aguadilla, Puerto Rico UFO event, concluding that the object recorded on infrared video did not demonstrate anomalous flight characteristics and were likely sky lanterns. The incident, recorded by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency aircraft on April 26th of 2013, has been widely analyzed since the footage was made public. The thermal video appears to show an object moving at high speed, splitting into two, and entering the ocean before disappearing. According to Arrow's case resolution report that was released late last week, the video actually depicts two objects traveling near each other rather than a single object splitting apart. The agency stated that a reconstruction of the event using the system toolkit modeling determined that the objects drifted at approximately 8 miles per hour, consistent with wind speed at the time. The object did not exhibit anomalous speeds or other behaviors exceeding known state-of-the-art performance characteristics, the report states. Arrow's analysis determined that what appeared to be transmedium behavior, meaning the object seemed to enter and exit the water, was instead a result of infrared sensors limitations. The report explains that thermal crossover, a phenomenon in which the object's heat signature blends with the background, caused the object to appear to vanish when they reach the ocean. The objects did not enter the water. Rather, the sensors could not distinguish the objects from the environment due to a lack of thermal contrast between them and the ocean, the report notes. Arrow also assessed with moderate confidence that the objects were, in fact, sky lanterns, commonly released by resorts and hotels in the area during celebrations. The report points to the object size thermal signature variability, and drifting motion as supporting the conclusion. The Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies, an independent research group, previously conducted an in-depth analysis of the Aguadilla video, reaching a different conclusion. Their study, which examined frame-by-frame infrared data and radar information, suggested that the object displayed speeds exceeding 100 miles an hour and transmedium capabilities. SCU researchers argued that no known aircraft, balloon, or natural phenomenon accounts for the observed behavior. Despite their previous findings, SCU stated that they contacted Aero for their findings on the Aguadilla case, but were told it was going through a pre-publication process. Now that it's available, it appears based on the SCU post, they are open to evaluate Aero's findings. So what they did is they also had a little note that they put out, and it said after the Department of Defense Aero referenced the Aguadilla UAP incident in their Senate subcommittee hearing, SCU contacted them for a copy of their page. Aero, or their paper, excuse me. Aero responded promptly with their paper is that their paper is currently going through coordination pre-publication process, and it would be available within the next several weeks. SCU welcomes Aero's transparency and openness. SCU looks forward to reviewing the Aero study and contributing to a deeper understanding of this case.
Of course.
Of course.
Deny. You know, and look, Aero's job is to deflect.
100%.
Okay, their job is to deflect and to make sure that, you know, like I use the term the Chief Wiggum.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here, people. Nothing to see here. And that's something that I would question. Yeah. Especially, look, there are people around the SCU, the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, that I don't particularly agree with philosophically.
Okay.
But I will say this. They're looking for answers. They're looking for the possibilities. These are professional data collectors. It isn't just a bunch of mugwumps gathering together. That's First Nations in certain areas for Sasquatches.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a bunch of mugwumps, you know, hanging out over a daiquiri, you know, in some lodge trying to figure out, you know, about this UFO/UAP issue.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't that whatsoever. They're there because they believe there's a plausibility that this may happen. And these scientists, in knowing a bunch of them, they use discernment. They use scientific method. They're very nuts and bolts people.
Right.
They are not woo people whatsoever. They collect data. They trust the data and what the data says.
Sure.
And if the data isn't making sense, they're investigating it. So for the SCU to come up and kind of counter that, saying, show us. Show us. The SCU is 100% correct in asking that question.
Right.
Because if anybody could open up the BS that Aero puts us through in this topic every time, it would 100% be the SCU. And good on them for making that challenge. And I like that they actually showed some stones in doing that, rather than just allowing Aero off the hook. Because Aero doesn't need to be off the hook. They need to be held accountable.
100%.
And on that note, we will continue with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio when we return with the UFO report and Little
Timmy James. This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. Juliana, how are you tonight? Sweet Robbie G.
Robbie G.
You know, between you and Sweet Robbie G, you could take that song.
Yeah.
And you could make a lot of versions of that.
Probably.
You know?
But do we want to mess with it?
Well, I think it would be nice so that way we could use different parts in our.
Oh, you mean edit it up and make yeah, for sure.
Like overlay it a couple of times so that way it kind of gets like a different sound.
Mm-hmm.
Or put a little beat behind it so it sounds a little bit more club music type. Yeah. You could play with that.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a rabbit hole. I love that sort of stuff too, right? It's like,
yeah, man. No, but that way we could change our commercials or our bumper music to that rather than using somebody's generic. Then we have it, right?
Yeah, 100%. We could do that. Yeah.
Ouch. He's like, going into the studio right now. That's my Sweet Robbie. You know what we're going to do for Sweet Robbie? We're going to give it a little tip of the cap right there. Here.
Oh, yeah, better throw me something. Ooh. All
right, ready?
Hey.
This is for Sweet Robbie G. Good job.
Nice. Well, this fits good.
Yeah. I got a good collection here.
You do?
Let's see. What do I got here? My Texas hat, my Sasquatch being abducted hat.
Yes. Where'd you get that one?
my beautiful New York Yankees hat right there.
Uh-huh.
Which that's the original color. Somewhere in there.
I don't want to throw
I've worn this hat out. Oh my God.
Yeah, she looks like she's been through the ringer.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I can only wear this with my hair when it's short on the sides.
Oh, because you get the...
Oh, no. Otherwise, it starts to... Like, my hair is so thick, it presses against the hat.
Yeah.
Gives me a headache. Mm-hmm.
You don't get one, Kevin.
Does Kevin want one?
Kevin's, where's my hat? That guy's hat. Let's just say I know Kevin, and yeah, that guy loves hats. Anything. We get hat swag, he's on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to design a couple more hats.
Cool.
Once I get the store back up here, which should be in about a week or so.
Yeah.
I'm going to put design a bunch of logos.
That's cool.
And stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to make one for Rob that just says sweets.
Ooh, nice.
Put some candy around it.
Ooh, red candy.
Sweet Robbie G. Oh, yeah. Little red Skittles all over it.
Taste the rainbow.
Uh-huh. I love the M&M store in Vegas.
No. You got an M&M store?
Dude, it's 4 stories.
Shut up.
You've never been?
No.
Oh, we'll go.
Yeah, I love M&M peanuts.
Yeah, well, I'll take you to the M&M store.
Is it M&M peanuts or peanut M&Ms?
All of them. All of them.
There's some purists out there that'll go nuts over that.
That M&M store is fantastic.
Taco Bell and M&Ms.
Yeah, when we go on the strip, and then the Coca-Cola store is right beside it.
Oh, my God.
4-story Coca-Cola store.
Holy man.
Mm-hmm. And then you got the Tim Mothman goatee store right beside it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where you can get your own. On it. Oh, hold on. Who's this? We got a new listener on Twitch here. Tony Tonic Cloud. On a scale from 1 to 10, how insane is this podcast? Well, it's a 0 because we're not a podcast. We're actually a live radio show. So it would be a 0. But for fun and the woo, if you like weird stories, we're a 10.
Absolutely.
We're a 10. We'll even show a little bit of leg.
Yeah, you might not want to see that.
The story isn't down, but I just there's something weird happening on it behind the scenes. You could try it, T-Bone. You could try it and let me know if it works.
Because T-Bone doesn't have any swag.
Yeah, T-Bone needs everything. He needs one of everything. We're going to get him a hockey puck. Here we go. In like 7 seconds. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you joining us. We want to remind all of you that if you miss most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. He's Little Timmy James.
I am so.
And I am Dave Scott.
He is so.
And this is a UFO report. What else you got for us here, my friend?
Well, we can continue on with Dr. John Kozlowski if you like.
Sure.
We're not. We're on an
Cheers to
arrow.
him.
We're on an arrow run tonight. So he recently did a question and answer. Well, it's an interview, but he did it with Scientific America. So it was, I was reading through it and I was like, okay, I'm going to take some excerpts out of this. So basically what he's trying to do, he's trying to put a new spin on Arrow, right? And, you know, from the last person, and now he's coming up and, you know, going to try to erase Kirkpatrick and make it his and make it much friendlier. So it started off, the interviewer goes, what milestones and directions do you and Arrow foresee as you assess the UFO situation? But we have quite a lot going on in the office. We're working diligently to make our Arrow website available to the public so they can report an incident. We want to have a semi-automated processing chain to quickly bring those cases in and then look for correlations with other cases from government sources. We're also working on machine learning and artificial intelligence tools. Surprise! So that we can look for we can look at correlations in a larger scale. Arrow is also looking at better utilization of the whole fabric of U.S. government sensors that are available. Last big push is for increasing transparency. To find more efficient ways to share information with the public and the scientific community to help us in some of our investigations. Standardizing the UAP data is an initiative to make it better suited for data science. So last November, you testified before the Senate Committee on Armed Services Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities. One point you raised was the importance of removing the stigma of reporting UAP event. How much of a problem is that? Well, it seems to be very diminished, or it seems to have diminished quite a bit, thankfully, through a variety of public endeavors. I think it does persist, for example, with local law enforcement and some military members. They have experienced some pushback themselves from discussing events that they've been a part of, but have come forward and shared that information with Arrow. So maybe the stigma is reduced, but not completely gone. Good progress is being made, but probably there's a little ways to go. So Arrow has reportedly deployed a Gremlin system, a multi-sensor network system for detecting, tracking, and characterizing UAPs in an undisclosed location. What is the status of this project? Well, Gremlin is envisioned to be a test bed for sensor evaluations and sensor fusion. We expect it to be a living system, always evolving. But there are a few interesting sightings that are worth investigating. So the reporter says to him, so what does a few interesting sightings mean exactly? Interesting from our perspective. It is not obvious what the object is. It is unidentified. It has some anomalous characteristics, and in these cases, the object appears to be moving rather quickly, but it doesn't appear to be using standard aircraft beacons. There could be multiple explanations for that. So we're not jumping to any conclusions, but they are worthy of further investigation. UF groups continually demand full disclosure, by which they mean more than transparent data sharing, namely the full disclosure of secret evidence that Earth has been visited by some form of alien intelligence. So for Arrow, if you come up with a head scratcher of an unknown phenomenon, how do you disclose that fact? Well, there are two things we have to consider. One is the owner of the data. We would need to work with the data owner to make sure that we are not revealing sensitive information about sources and methods. But putting that aside, there is nothing inherently classified. I repeat that. There is nothing inherently classified about an anomalous event or phenomenon. So we would work with our leadership to document that as well, study it, and then produce a product that can be shared widely with the community. There is no inherent reason why we would sit on these anomalies if we did come across something truly perplexing. I don't buy that. So
why don't you buy it?
I'm just saying. Yeah. It's like, okay, so you're basically contradicting everything that's going on right now anyway. Is it really accurate to say you're being transparent while also dealing with sensitive classified data? It's a challenge. Arrow should be as transparent as possible, and we are working in that direction. At the same time, we need to respect the sensitivities of the sources and methods used to gather the information that is relevant to UFOs. Ultimately, we are also working with our partners to release as much information as possible about the full context which that data was gathered. And then finally, do you have any evidence for truth believers who are convinced that aliens are visiting Earth's skies? I don't have advice per se. I don't want to be the thought police. I think everyone is welcome to approach this topic however they like.
So basically, you can have your own opinion, but it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Nice guy.
Yeah. We want to be as transparent as possible. It's word salad.
Yeah. We want to be as transparent as possible, but you do not get part of that transparency. That's very 1984-ish.
Right?
Or Animal Farm.
There you go.
We're all transparent, but some are more transparent than others.
That's right.
It's like, oh my God.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, I know that he's just doing his job. I know and no judgment, but the whole context of the subject, it was like, yeah, we want to be transparent, but we have to be very sensitive. Like, all you're doing is just making what you're doing already sound nicer with prettier words. My opinion.
Give me something to believe in right now.
All right. So this one is an abduction story. And this comes from 1993. So this is a story about Nona Rossi. Nona's account unfolded in the early hours of January 1993 at around 1:15 a.m. when she awoke suddenly in her home in Totowa, New Jersey. She recalled needing a moment for her eyes to adjust to the darkness, but as they did, she felt a surge of fear running through her. It was then that she noticed several strange figures, each wearing long robes with hoods that obscured their faces, standing around her bed, each completely silent. As she she took on this bizarre scene, she noticed how there was an electric light like crackle in the air in her room, as if there was some kind of static in the air. Then, before she could contemplate anything else, a beam of light suddenly appeared in the room. She later recalled that the light was unlike anything she had ever seen before. Furthermore, she could immediately tell that it was far from an ordinary light, elaborating that it was like a shaft of liquid crystalline light that struck her square in the head. As soon as it did so, she could feel bizarre sensations running throughout her body and began to suffer violent convulsions. Her limbs began to shake intensely. During these moments of control, uncontrolled movement, she once more felt terror well up inside of her. So much so that she feared that she might die. All the while, the hooded figures remained still and calm, simply watching the strange events unfolding in front of them. Then they stepped forward towards the bed and reached out towards her, placing their hands upon her. As soon as they did so, the convulsions began to ease somewhat, and she could feel them guiding the energy through her body. Then things turned even stranger. A moment later, one of the figures stepped closer still. She could see that it held an ankh, exactly like those found in ancient Egyptian culture, representing the symbol of life. Then she heard a voice in her mind that she believed came from the figure. Although she didn't recall specific words, she believed that they were magic and had a great significance as to what was happening. The next thing she knew, the hooded figures disappeared as if into thin air, and she was left alone in the bedroom. To say she was perplexed or confused would be an understatement. And as the night gave way to dawn, and then to the following day, Nona found that these strange events were far from over. As the sun rose, she suddenly found her body shaking violently. She later described this feeling as though an electric current was being passed through her, unlike anything she'd ever felt before. The secondary convulsions eventually stopped. She was, though, on a path that would lead her to a place in her soul that she never before imagined. A little over 3 years later, in April of '96, Nona walked into the office of Dr. John Mack, who had carried out extensive research into hundreds of alien abductions and extraterrestrial encounter cases. And with his help, she would finally discover further details of the extraordinary events that January night in 1993. Using hypnotic regression, Mac took Nona back to the early hours of January of 1993. And it became immediately apparent from the way her body convulsed that she was back in the moment. She began to speak, stating she could feel a vibration at the top of her head. When Mac asked her to elaborate, she offered that it was as if someone had stuck something into her spine. As she spoke, her body jolted and moved as if she was right back in her bed that January night in '93. Almost on the verge of breaking down, perhaps reliving the pain, she stated that she had the sensation that whatever was in her spine felt stuck. She then added that it felt as though every single part of her body was waking up at the same time. She said that the strange sensation appeared to be spreading through her body. Suddenly, her body began to feel lighter and lighter before she had the sensation that she was encased in some kind of capsule or container of energy. She could still see the strange figures standing around her, including the one standing by her feet and holding the ankh. It was this figure who was speaking the words that contained some kind of magic to them. At this point, Nona became quite agitated at reliving the experience, and Dr. Mack had to calm her back down. Once he had done so, they continued. Nona's next clear memory is of being inside a strange beam of light. She described moving upwards through the light and towards the dark hole with bright lights around it above her. Although she couldn't quite recall actually entering through the hole, she next found herself inside a blue-lit room with a dome-like ceiling. She looked around and determined she was alone. Then her memories turned more ominous. She recalled realizing she was lying on a cold metallic table surface and feeling some kind of pressure at the side of her head, as something appeared to be inserted into her ear. Interesting, the following morning, after the encounter, Nona awoke to find blood on her pillow as well as in her ear. And a subsequent visit to the doctor revealed scar tissue around her ear.
That was a long one.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, it's like, okay, gee. Could you imagine laying in bed? And I mean, we've talked about it before, but you're laying in bed and then all of a sudden, I don't know, especially in cloaks. I don't know what would be worse. The gray standing there at the foot of your bed or somebody with a cloak and a hood on.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. So, what else have I got here? And got a little bit of a real short one here. Kind of a little bit of humor involved in this one. So, here's a true yet amusing alien abduction report. This one comes from the Annals of UFO Lore, courtesy of Betty Andreessen, a Massachusetts woman whose abduction story from January 1967 is both bizarre and oddly funny in its details. Betty claimed she was taken from her home by a group of gray aliens who floated her through a closed window. Once aboard their ship, the aliens, whom she described as having big eyes and no noses, subjected her to a series of tests. They inserted a tiny needle up her nose, which she said tickled so much she couldn't stop giggling during what was supposed to be a terrifying moment. Later, they offered her a glass of thick green liquid to drink, which she described as tasting like melted lime jello. She politely sipped it while they watched, and she wondered if this was their version of hospitality. The aliens then showed her a holographic tour of their home planet, complete with glowing pyramids and weird bird-like creatures hopping around. Betty, a devoted Christian, asked if they knew about Jesus, to which one alien allegedly replied via telepathy, "We know of your leader, but we're not here for that." Investigators, including ufologist Ray Fowler, took her case seriously, noting she passed a lie detector tests and stuck to her wild story for decades. No one could explain why a suburban mom would invent something so specific and quirky. So there you have it. A true abduction tale with a ticklish nose probe, alien jello shots, and cosmic shrug about Jesus. Strange, but apparently true.
I actually talked to Betty a few years ago on this show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was really good.
Neat. Thanks.
It was really good.
Right on.
And unfortunately, we lost Betty a couple years ago.
Right.
But she was adamant that weird stuff happened. We got about 4.5 minutes here to go before we have to call it the night. One of the things I think we need to talk about is how slow things are right now.
Oh, man.
In the UFO world. Like, you're pulling teeth to try and find these issues going on right now. But one of the things that I want to remind our audience is in a few days, we're going to have Carl Crusher. We had him back on we had him on last week. We're going to have him on this week because I think one of the stories, and we brought it up on this show a few times over the last couple of months, but one of the things we haven't got really deep into recently is the way the social media influencer is taking over the news aspect of everything.
No doubt. Yeah.
And I don't think people are paying enough attention to that. I really don't think they are.
Okay.
This is where you and I have talked about this before on air, where, all the critics will be, "Oh, you're just whining.
Yeah.
You're just complaining because you can't get these guys." No.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with that. We're going to look at how social media influence and people who have between, say, 800,000 and 30 million subscribers have all of a sudden shown interest in the UFO story the last, say, 18 months to 2 years. And all of a sudden, boom, we're seeing Jake Barber with Logan Paul.
I know.
We're seeing, other scientists and legends with other social media influencers. And that's the way the ball is going. Whereas this field that has supported these people for decades is getting left out.
Yes. 100%.
And I think that's a story that needs to be told. I'm very excited about having Carl back on the show to talk about it because Carl has over 3 million subscribers on YouTube. And, when this whole social media thing really started taking off about, you'd see like stories online where, well, Jane Doe there has 4.8 million subscribers on her Instagram, or 2.3 million on her YouTube channel, or whatever it may be. Like, we started pointing that out a few years ago in media posts, online. And I think because people now look at subscribers and followers as some sort of credibility,
Right.
rather than the fact that a lot of people just hit subscribe because they are the Tantamount powerhouse right now. I mean, whether it's Logan Paul, whether it's Mr. Beast, whether it's Sean Ryan or Julian Dory or many others. Okay, you look at them and they're using their ability to understand YouTube as a very large platform.
Sure.
They are using that to help get the story. And those who are, say, addicted to getting the story out, they are seeing that that's the way they're moving ahead.
For sure.
Seeing that's the way society is going, because I believe now in the United States, there is, I think, 54% of people watch YouTube over mainstream television now.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. See, the thing is, though, and I don't want to sound like that old guy, and I know we don't have a lot of time left. I don't want to sound like that old guy, but it's that right now generation. It's an immediate thing. I think that that's a part of the fabric of all of this. I think there's a majority that they want it now. They want it now. They want it now. And with YouTube, they can get it now. And people that are on YouTube and have channels can put it out anytime they want. They're not on it 5 o'clock on whatever channel you watch, right? So I think that may have something to do with it as well. They demand it and they're getting it.
But is it dangerous?
Yes.
And that is something we need to figure out, because I've always been a firm believer that when you control the media, you control the message.
Yep.
And if these people are only talking to certain people, number one, who's controlling that?
Yeah.
And number two, who's controlling the message? And
True.
in the UFO world, we seem to be able to get away with that.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about that later on. Wherever you may be, thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, #SpaceOutRadio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Space Out Radio. That's our Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for you to break with us.
Stay
Because
and
together,
don't
my
make a
friend.
mistake. We're watching.
Yes, the train has docked for the night. Soon, my friends, we shall ride again. You see, throws in your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got everything. Good job.
Not bad. Not bad.
It's over.
It's
It's over. God, I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
Roy Orbison was badass.
Roy Orbison was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. That falsetto, man.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot.
Was he blind?
Legally.
But he... Okay.
Yeah, he could see. He had Coke bottle bottom glasses, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was, as far as I know, he was legally blind. He wasn't completely blind. Yeah, Lon was energetic tonight. That was awesome. I love it when Lon's on, though. I really do, because you never know what to expect. Be cool to have him and our Keith Andrews on at the same time. Wasn't. Oh. How many of the traveling Wilburys are still alive?
That's a good question.
ELO. So, what's this? Oh my God, I'm just drawing a blank. I'm bagged. Lynn, yeah, Jeff Lynn, and what else is it? There's Petty, gone. Harrison, gone. Orbison, gone.
Well, Orbison died when they were just about to go on tour.
Yes, yeah, when they canceled the tour.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I guess just Jeff Lynn. I don't even know. Mark Knopfler was in the Wilburys?
I don't think so. Are you looking that up right now?
No. There was a comment. Paramarv.
Well,
I'm not sure. I don't think. I think you might be mistaken unless he was
traveling Wilburys. Jeff Lynne, Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, George Harrison, and Jim Keltner.
Jim Keitner.
Keltner?
I don't even know.
He was on the drums.
Oh, okay.
Jim Keltner.
I forgot that Dylan was there.
So Bob Dylan and Jeff Lynne are the only ones left.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Dylan and I share a birthday.
Do you really?
Yeah. I saw him in concert once in Vancouver.
Nice.
Worst fucking show I've ever seen in my life.
Really, eh?
It was horrible.
I can imagine.
It was absolutely horrible.
I share a birthday with Stan Lee, creator of Spider-Man. Oh, and what's his name? Denzel Washington. I didn't realize you were gone Friday. I thought you were leaving Saturday. Let's have a look and see what we've got.
Saturday, the event's half over.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I just thought for some reason my brain said Saturday.
Yeah.
So what are you leaving after the show Thursday night?
Well, I fly out at 1:30. So I'm going to leave here at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, because you got to be there 2 hours early?
Yeah, well, I'm driving to Abbotsford. And I'm going to leave my Jeep at my dad's place.
Oh, perfect.
Soft top Vancouver.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I'll never see my Jeep again.
No, you won't.
Yeah. And I like my Jeep.
Yeah, I like it too. It's very nice.
All right.
Yeah, so let's go here. Visit channel.
All right. There's only three musicians, well-known musicians, that have my birthday.
Oh, really?
Bob Dylan.
Okay.
The dulcet tones. I love her voice.
Mm-hmm.
Patti LaBelle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm lucky there.
Yeah.
Rich Robinson, guitarist for Black Crowes.
Yeah. Huh.
Let's see. And then if we want to go older, Charlie Antolini, Italian drummer. Archie Shepp, saxophonist.
Oh.
They're both 88. Tommy Chong, Priscilla Presley.
You share a birthday with Tommy Chong?
Yeah.
Nice.
Gary Berghoff from MASH. Roseanne Cash. Actor John C. Reilly.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go there. I think one time I looked it up and it was a bunch of, you're getting older. Here we go again. You're getting older when it's like you share birthdays with celebrities you don't even know who they are. I'm like, who? Oh, she was on this show and he was on that. I was like, I have no clue.
You fart?
No, I didn't fart.
Sound like it.
No, I didn't fart.
Ripping ass over there.
Nope, not yet, but soon enough.
Anybody else hear Tim rip ass?
Come on, people. Be nice. Oh, yes.
Moody Mongol, how are you? Canna Chef Chris, good to see you. Where's Paul Demon? Where's Sierra?
Oh, jeez. They were having bad nights.
Bad nights. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Just a quick reminder to our audience members.
Thanks, Joe.
Wokeology does not work here.
No, not unfortunately. Just no, it doesn't.
No, wokeology does not work in our chat room.
I got a friend of mine he says, I'm so unwoke, I can't wake up. It's like,
I don't care how you vote.
Nope. Not at all. Oh.
All right. I have to bump those up.
Oh.
Will you rip one?
No. That's your chair, man. I'm not ripping one. I could if you want, but I won't. Because I'm a swell guy. So you get treated when you write a guy a song.
How did you guys all enjoy having Grant Cameron and Nicole on Sunday? I know it was kind of last minute. Like literally it was last minute.
Yeah.
Like I found out about it like an hour before.
I know. And then I got a phone call about 45 minutes before. That was fun.
Yeah. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. I can't wait to redo the studio.
Yeah. I totally get it. You should get that thing, that app, and you just film the room with all the stuff in it, and then it'll rearrange it and change it all for you. I don't know. It's probably
That's too hard.
That's too hard. Hang on. Film it. Okay. Gotta rest.
I want to figure out where we can put a desk like right in between that you and I are sitting.
That we can,
right across.
Yeah. Like I get
and
you.
then have like a camera right there that we could go to.
Yeah, that would be cool.
You know,
that would be fun.
Yeah. We're gonna have to move some shit around, but
yep. Kick out a wall or two. No.
Like move this over there. We could have the other screens over here.
Yeah.
Right. Just need a proper, just like a one size fit all desk.
Yes. Yeah.
And if we might have to get a stand for another. Whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. I'm fucking cranky today, man.
Don't be.
No crankiness.
No crankiness. It's over. We can finish for the evening. You can climb into your bed and have a good night's sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll drive 25 miles home and do the same thing. Take the long way.
Yeah.
What?
Hold on, right there. There we go.
Yeah, this was the Rob that was on this. The special guest was somebody that Nicole had her and
His name's Rob Thomas.
Yeah. And he
into UFOs.
big time. Yeah.
I will say this. You might want to follow what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say how I know.
Nope.
But you might want to follow what he does.
Yes. That's right. Our Keith is on Friday.
Old Keith Andrews.
Yeah. And they said, "Where's all your Buccaneers? Where's your Buccaneers?" And the little boy turned and said, "They're under my bucking hat."
I see where you went there.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just going to tell you right now that was weak.
No, it wasn't. It was really good.
Huge.
Everybody is loving it. I'm reading it right now.
Not a single person laughed at that.
Yeah, that's right.
There wasn't a single person.
Come on, somebody, don't leave me hanging here. Oh, there we go. See? Hillbilly Herb. Hilarious. Thanks, Herb.
Well, Hillbilly Herb also has gout. So.
My big toe hurts, so it doesn't count. I don't know.
Yeah, Paramarv, that is the goal, to get into the old church. The best part about it is I think that church will be empty for a while.
Oh, yeah.
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 I don't think it's up to code.
I would suggest not.
It would be cool.
Mm-hmm. The church would be cool, but there's a couple other spots that I've seen too that are.
The reason why I like the church is we could just have people in there for a live show.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's kind of.
But they've got both buildings are for sale, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like.
I know. But you could make your money off of renting the house.
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
You'd probably do $1,800 a month for that.
Pretty nasty.
You gotta clean it up.
Big time. But yeah, in town, right in the heart of town, $1,800. Probably.
Couple of young college kids in our town.
Yeah.
Because we're such a college town.
That's right.
Oh, God. No, but you could definitely get your mortgage covered there.
I would say yes. I would say yeah, for sure.
I could be a slumlord. Take that one off the list.
I want to be a slumlord.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch that show? It's out of Great Britain, and it's something called Slumlords and something like Bad Tenants.
No,
I love it over there. Like, they don't mess around. Look, mate, you can open the door, or I'm coming in. That's it. And they've got a writ from the court, and there is nothing stopping them. You've got. Can I please have a half hour? I just need to. You've got 10 minutes. It's like, oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry. 10 minutes. What about my kids? 10 minutes. And it's like, wow. Or they go in the slumlords. You've got a cardboard shack built on the outside of your house, and you've got 7 people living in it. Yeah, it's brutal. It's a good show. It's like, wow. From what I understand, it is not very easy to get places to live over there.
Sounds like half of the Lower Mainland.
Well, yeah, but everybody rents over there. Well, I guess they do in the Lower Mainland too. So, because nobody can afford to buy a house in Vancouver.
If they ever crack down on illegal suites in the Lower Mainland, probably have 1 million people out of could not find a home.
Oh yeah, yep. And there's some cities down in the Lower Mainland that for 4 or 5 years it's okay to have that an in-law suite, and it doesn't have to be in-laws, and then they revert it back, and now you got to be an in-law to live in an in-law suite, and they've got to be legal, and then they revert it back. I know that Surrey did in the 90s, bounced it back and forth. All right, you can have it. It's all okay.
Surrey has a big problem with their mega houses.
Oh, I know. I know a guy that
like they're renting one room
Mhm.
for like $1,800.
Oh yeah,
it's New York prices.
Mhm. They got a guy that I used to know that worked down. He was an inspector, home inspector for like building inspector, and these guys would build these mega homes and go in there, and they'd inspect the plumbing and stuff. They'd go through it and say, okay, perfect, and they passed them. And then the guys that were building the house were building a couple more in different spots. Contractors, they'd rip all the plumbing out and they'd put garden hose in the walls.
Really?
Showed me pictures. And then the next house, when it got inspected, had all nice copper pipes and everything was fine or whatever. As soon as they passed the inspection, out it came, in went the garden hoses and up went the drywall.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was like, God,
that's kind of illegal.
Just a little bit.
All right, people. Tomorrow night on the show, we have Geraldine Orozco, the spiritual you. And I'm sure we'll find out if Geraldine's added to her shoe collection prior to, going on air with us.
She's got nice hair, though.
Great hair. Fantastic hair. Probably the best hair that we have on this show. I haven't seen much better hair. No, I don't think so. No, not at all. Thank you to T-Bone, Mama Catherine, Frankie B for the great super chats. Sweet Robbie G, are you having a show right after this? I believe you are. Everybody head over to the Social Dig. Sweets is going to fire things up for you. And we'll see you all tomorrow night, everybody. Much love.
Healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.